Public safety concerns must be addressed in ways that are lawful.
Topics ranging from gun rights and private property laws to foreign property confiscation.
We want to see Congress pass laws that will help reduce crime without infringing on the rights of law-abiding citizens.
There is a difference between states deciding how they want to regulate any number of things versus stripping people of their rights to self-defense.
Saying setting a higher threshold in an emergency could mean life or death.
California's hidden gun law changes that could land you in jail. A California gun owner just got arrested last week for something that was completely legal when he bought it. The firearm sitting in his safe for years suddenly became a felony overnight, and he had no idea. This isn't some rare case. It's happening across California right now, and the scary part is, most gun owners don't even know they're breaking the law. California has quietly rolled out over 40 new firearm restrictions that are catching even experienced gun owners completely off guard. These aren't just minor tweaks. We're talking about sweeping changes that can turn law-abiding citizens into criminals without them firing a single shot. And here's what's really concerning. Some of these laws affect people who don't even own guns. The state's approach has shifted dramatically. Instead of simply banning specific gun models, they're now targeting features, components, and even the ammunition you buy. A simple modification you made years ago, a magazine you've had forever, or even helping a friend at the range could now result in serious criminal charges. Today, we're breaking down the 10 most powerful California gun laws that are blindsiding residents across the state. These aren't just technical legal details, these are real changes affecting real people, and understanding them could be the difference between staying legal and facing prosecution. The ammunition trap nobody saw coming. Walking into a sporting goods store to buy ammunition used to be straightforward. Not anymore. California's ammunition regulations have transformed a simple purchase into a complex legal process that's catching buyers completely unprepared. Every single ammunition purchase now triggers a background check, not just for new gun buyers, everyone. Your information gets scanned through multiple state databases, and here's where it gets tricky. If your current address doesn't match their records, if there's a typo in your name, or if an old legal matter pops up, you're denied on the spot. No ammunition, no explanation, just rejection. But the real shock comes when buyers discover California tracks every ammunition purchase. The state records what caliber you bought, how much, when you bought it, and where. This isn't temporary. It's a permanent record linking you to every round of ammunition you've ever purchased in the state. The restrictions go deeper. Certain ammunition types are now completely banned. Bringing ammunition from another state, even if you legally purchased it elsewhere, can result in criminal charges. Online orders must be shipped to licensed dealers where you'll still face the same background checks and potential denials. What makes this particularly challenging is how these rules affect regular shooting activities. Planning a weekend at the range? Better start the process early. Competitive shooters who go through thousands of rounds are finding themselves flagged for unusual purchase patterns. Even inheriting ammunition from a family member now requires proper documentation and transfer procedures. Background checks that never end. California's background check system has evolved into something far more invasive than most people realize. It's no longer just about checking your record when you buy a gun. The state now monitors you continuously, even years after your purchase. The expanded system pulls data from criminal databases, mental health records, restraining orders, federal watch lists, and administrative records. A decades-old court case you forgot about, a temporary restraining order from a messy divorce, or even certain medical treatments can suddenly flag you as prohibited. Here's what's catching people off guard. California actively monitors existing gun owners. The system regularly updates, scanning for any changes in your status. You could legally buy a firearm today and have it seized 6 months later if something in your record changes. This isn't theoretical, it's happening regularly across the state. The continuous monitoring means a DUI, certain misdemeanor convictions, or even specific mental health treatments can trigger confiscation orders. Law enforcement shows up at your door, often without warning, to remove firearms you've owned legally for years. Private sales between family members, transfers between friends, even lending a firearm at the range, all of these now require formal background checks through licensed dealers. The casual firearm culture that existed for generations has been replaced by a system where every transfer creates a paper trail, when your neighbor can take your guns. The expansion of California's red flag laws represents one of the most dramatic shifts in firearm ownership rights. What started as a tool for law enforcement has grown into a system where almost anyone in your life can petition to have your firearms removed. Family members, employers, co-workers, teachers, and roommates can now file for a gun violence restraining order. The bar for evidence is surprisingly low. Social media posts, workplace conflicts, or reports of concerning behavior can be enough to trigger the process. Emergency orders can be issued within hours without you even knowing about it. Law enforcement arrives at your home with a court order to seize your firearms immediately. You don't get to argue your case until after your guns are already gone, and even then, the burden often falls on you to prove you should get them back. The duration of these orders has also expanded dramatically. What might start as a 21-day emergency order can be extended for up to 5 years. During this time, you're prohibited from purchasing, possessing, or even being around firearms. This includes visiting friends who own guns or even certain job opportunities. False accusations carry penalties, but the damage is often already done. The process itself can strain relationships, affect employment, and create lasting legal records. Many gun owners are now finding themselves walking on eggshells, worried that any conflict or disagreement could result in losing their constitutional rights. No-go zones are everywhere. California's expansion of sensitive places has created a complex maze of locations where carrying firearms is prohibited, even with a valid permit. These aren't just obvious places like schools and courthouses anymore. The list has grown so extensive that permit holders often violate the law without realizing it. Public parks, playgrounds, public transit, medical facilities, and government buildings are now off limits. But here's where it gets complicated. The boundaries aren't always clear. Parking lots, sidewalks, and areas surrounding these locations may also be restricted. You could be legally carrying on one street and committing a felony by crossing to the next. Temporary restrictions add another layer of complexity. Street fairs, parades, protests, and community events can transform previously legal areas into prohibited zones without notice. What was legal yesterday might be a crime today, and the only warning might be a small sign you didn't notice. Private businesses can now opt into these restrictions simply by posting a sign. That coffee shop you visit every morning, the grocery store, your workplace, any of them can become no-carry zones overnight. Missing these signs doesn't excuse violations, and the penalties are severe. The practical impact is staggering. Concealed carry permit holders report having to constantly plan routes, check locations, and sometimes leave their firearms at home entirely because navigating the restrictions has become too risky. The right to carry has become so limited that many wonder if their permits have any real value anymore. The technology that's eliminating gun choices. Microstamping requirements have quietly revolutionized California's handgun market, though most buyers don't understand why their options have become so limited. This technology requirement has created an effective ban on most new handgun models without explicitly prohibiting them. Microstamping requires firearms to imprint a unique code on every fired shell casing. While this sounds simple, the technology is expensive, technically challenging, and many manufacturers argue it's unreliable. Rather than comply, most gun makers simply don't submit new models for California approval. The result? California's roster of approved handguns shrinks every year. Popular models available everywhere else in the country can't be sold here. When older models fall off the roster due to minor changes or discontinued production, they're gone forever. The selection available to California buyers is a fraction of what exists nationally. The law includes a poison pill provision. For every new microstamping equipped handgun added to the roster, 3 older models must be removed. This mathematical elimination ensures the roster will eventually contain only microstamping firearms, regardless of consumer preference or technological readiness. Used gun values have skyrocketed for off-roster models. Private party transfers of these firearms command premium prices, creating a two-tier market where wealthy buyers can access firearms that average citizens cannot. Even replacement parts and repairs become complicated when your firearm is no longer on the approved list. Age restrictions and new barriers. The process of purchasing a semi-automatic rifle in California has transformed from a straightforward transaction into a complex ordeal designed to discourage ownership. The age restriction to 21 is just the beginning of a series of hurdles buyers must clear. Beyond the age requirement, purchasers must complete enhanced safety certifications that go far beyond basic gun safety. Written exams, practical demonstrations, and proof of safe storage at home are now mandatory. The testing isn't easy. Failure rates are significant, and you can't simply retake it immediately. Documentation requirements have expanded dramatically. Proof of residency must be current and match exactly across all documents. Any discrepancy, no matter how minor, results in denial. Additional forms verify identity, storage capability, and understanding of transport laws. Missing one form means starting the entire process over. The financial burden is substantial. Between safety courses, testing fees, documentation, transfer fees, and mandatory equipment like approved safes, the cost of legally acquiring a semi-automatic rifle can exceed the firearm's price. This creates an economic barrier that particularly impacts lower-income residents. transportation and storage laws add ongoing complexity. Specific rules govern how these rifles must be stored at home, transported to ranges, and handled in various situations. Violations often occur during routine activities like driving to a gunsmith or moving homes. Even experienced owners find themselves accidentally breaking laws they didn't know existed. Magazine capacity limits and legal confusion. California's magazine capacity limitations have created a legal minefield that even attorneys struggle to navigate clearly. The 10-round limit sounds simple, but the reality is far more complex, especially for those who owned magazines before various law changes. The confusion stems from the law's tortured history. Court decisions have created windows where high-capacity magazines were legal, then illegal, then legal again, then illegal again. Magazines purchased during Freedom Week exist in a legal gray area that continues to evolve with ongoing litigation. Possession isn't the only issue. Using legally owned magazines at shooting ranges, transporting them, or even storing them improperly can trigger violations. Some owners have been charged simply for having repair parts that could theoretically restore a magazine to higher capacity, even if they never intended to use them. Interstate travel creates particular hazards. Californians who move from other states often bring legally purchased magazines without realizing they're importing contraband. Visiting family in neighboring states and returning with magazines you've owned for years can result in felony charges. The enforcement is inconsistent but severe when it happens. Some counties aggressively prosecute magazine violations while others largely ignore them. This patchwork enforcement creates uncertainty where gun owners never know if they're truly safe from prosecution. Many have chosen to surrender or destroy magazines rather than risk the legal consequences. Ghost guns and the end of privacy. The crackdown on ghost guns has eliminated one of the last areas of firearms privacy in California. What many saw as a hobbyist activity or personal project has become a heavily regulated process with criminal penalties for non-compliance. Every homemade firearm must now be registered before completion. This means applying for a serial number, passing a background check, and having the number professionally engraved within strict time frames. The days of building a personal firearm without government knowledge are over. The definition of what constitutes a firearm has expanded dramatically. Unfinished frames and receivers that require significant work to become functional are now treated as complete guns. Even possessing certain parts without proper documentation can result in charges. The line between legal parts and illegal firearms has become impossibly thin. Online purchases are particularly risky. California monitors shipments of firearm-related parts, and buying something as simple as a replacement trigger or barrel can flag you for investigation. Sellers often won't ship to California at all, regardless of the part's legality, simply to avoid potential liability. The penalties extend beyond criminal charges. Being caught with an unserialized firearm typically results in a lifetime ban on gun ownership, destruction of all your firearms, and potential impacts on employment and housing. The state's message is clear: there's no such thing as a private firearm anymore. Feature-based bans that make no sense. California's dangerous features classification system has created a bizarre reality where identical firearms can be legal or illegal based on cosmetic features. This isn't about function, it's about appearance and ergonomics that legislators deemed too dangerous. A pistol grip that allows comfortable shooting? Banned. A telescoping stock that lets different family members use the same rifle? Banned. A flash suppressor that reduces muzzle flash? Banned. Combine any of these features with a detachable magazine, and your rifle becomes an illegal assault weapon. The workarounds are often absurd. Featureless rifles with fin grips that prevent proper hand placement are technically legal, but arguably less safe to operate. Fixed magazine systems that require disassembling the gun to reload comply with the law, but create potential safety hazards during clearing malfunctions. Modification mistakes are common and costly. Adding what seems like an innocent accessory, a different grip, a muzzle device, or an adjustable stock can instantly transform a legal rifle into a felony. Gun owners must become amateur lawyers, constantly researching whether each part maintains the rifle's legal status. The impact on the shooting sports is profound. Competitive shooters find their equipment banned, training becomes difficult with compromised ergonomics, and the traditional rifle culture that existed for generations has been effectively criminalized. Many longtime gun owners have simply given up, selling their collections rather than navigating the ever-changing legal landscape. The assault weapons ban that keeps expanding. California's assault weapons ban has evolved from targeting specific models to creating an ever-expanding web of prohibited characteristics that captures more firearms each year. The law's complexity ensures that even experts struggle to definitively determine what's legal. The ban now encompasses rifles, pistols, and shotguns based on feature combinations. A semi-automatic rifle with a detachable magazine and any prohibited feature becomes an assault weapon. But the definitions of these features continue to evolve through regulation and court interpretation, meaning yesterday's legal configuration might be today's felony. Registration periods have come and gone, creating different classes of owners with different rights. Some assault weapons are grandfathered if registered during specific windows, others are illegal regardless of when acquired. The patchwork of rules means identical firearms might have completely different legal statuses based on registration dates. The practical impact extends beyond individual ownership. Shooting ranges face liability for allowing illegal configurations. Gunsmiths risk their licenses working on questionable firearms. And even transportation companies worry about shipping parts that might enable assault weapon configurations. The entire firearms ecosystem has been disrupted. Enforcement varies wildly by jurisdiction, creating additional uncertainty. Some prosecutors aggressively charge any violation, while others focus only on criminal use. This inconsistency means gun owners never know whether their technical violation will result in a warning or life-changing felony charges. The future of gun ownership in California. California's gun laws have created a reality where legal gun ownership requires constant vigilance, substantial resources, and acceptance of ever-increasing restrictions. The pace of change shows no signs of slowing, with new bills introduced every legislative session. The cumulative effect of these laws has fundamentally transformed gun culture in the state. What was once a normal part of California life has become a legal minefield where innocent mistakes carry severe consequences. Many lifetime gun owners have chosen to leave the state or abandon shooting entirely, rather than risk prosecution. For those who choose to remain and exercise their rights, staying informed is essential. Laws change rapidly, interpretations evolve, and what's legal today might be prohibited tomorrow. The burden of compliance falls entirely on individual owners, with ignorance providing no defense against prosecution. The broader implications extend beyond gun owners. These laws affect family members who inherit firearms, friends who visit ranges together, and anyone who might find themselves subject to red flag orders. California's approach to gun control has created a system where everyone must understand these complex laws, whether they own firearms or not. That's it for today, folks. See you in the next video.